Multiple rocket launcher vehicles aren't a common sight on the battlefields of War Thunder. They're usually hard to use and, as a general rule, are only implemented as event or premium vehicles. But if you know how to play them, those MRLs are capable of clearing the field. No armor can save you if you're caught in the middle of a rocket barrage. Let's see how you can tame these beasts, get the most out of their firepower, and simply have as much fun in the process as humanly possible. All MRL vehicles in the game come in two flavors: pure tank destroyers and tanks with launchers. In the first case, rockets are mounted on a lightly armored platform, a towing vehicle or a truck. A distinct representative of this class of vehicles is the German Panzerwerfer. The launcher, mounted on an Opel half-track, is capable of firing 10 rockets at once, showering your enemies with a hail of explosions. Furthermore, given that every rocket weighs about 40 kilos, it's not just direct hits that they should be worried about. At first glance, it seems clear that this is not a vehicle for the front line. There is no armor, and the launcher is no tank turret when it comes to convenience of use. On the other hand, rockets travel on complex trajectories and can easily go off coming in contact with see-through obstacles, which means that long-distance engagements are also out of the question. What should you do then? Just forget what you know. In fact, MRL vehicles of this type perform really well at medium and even close range. Their power lies in their incredible suppression capabilities and superior firepower. Even if you missed with a single rocket, you can always follow with another 2 or 3. And even if that failed to eliminate the target, you at least knock its gun out and damage other modules. At the same time, these kinds of tank destroyers are often on the smaller side, making it easy to hide their vulnerable hulls behind cover. Sometimes you can even deal with several opponents at once. Just don't ever get cocky. On the Panzerwerfer, for instance, you have only 10 rockets max in your launcher at any given time, and a reload takes a lot of time. Furthermore, the vehicle doesn't have the best power-to-weight ratio. The half-track is pretty mobile on even ground, but elevated terrain can certainly be a problem. When it comes to tank destroyers of this type, the Soviet BM-13N, or the legendary Katyusha, is in a spot of its own. It has the capability of tilting the front down, more or less like the Japanese MBTs with their fancy hydropneumatic suspension systems. But in the case of the Katyusha, that simply simulates the act of digging in. At the same time, the vehicle has a gun depression of plus 8 degrees. Yep, that's why it's a good idea to stick to long-range engagements. Now, let's take a gander at the second type of MRLS vehicles. That's when the launcher is mounted on a tank. A prime example of this design is the T-34 Calliope with a launcher mounted on the turret of a Sherman that has a pretty high profile on its own. Or the British Cromwell, armed with a bunch of RP-3 rockets. These vehicles aren't simply tank destroyers. These are true tanks, coming with all the strengths of the type. The Sherman makes for a great frontline fighter, especially when getting really close and personal with the enemy. Even with a damaged gun, you still have the Calliope to engulf the opponent in a storm of flames, and there's sufficient armor to provide some protection to your modules and crew. Engage enemy vehicles with your gun first. This way, you won't have to deal with limited visibility due to all the clouds of dust. Then, if your cannon isn't enough, use your rocket trump card. The Cromwell also performs better in CQC, but due to a different reason, the British vehicle has next to no armor, and its rockets are rigidly mounted in a locked position. You simply can't really aim with those when shooting from a distance. Its gun, though, has pretty decent elevation, and the tank itself is really agile, making this vehicle a great pick for players that can be both aggressive and cautious and know when to be what. When it comes to surprise flanking maneuvers and lightning-quick attacks at medium range or up close, this British vehicle performs really, really well.